So now we're going to go on to part 3 of 12.4 using percents. It says, during a 5-year period, 55% of the named storms became hurricanes. If during the 5-year period there were 22 hurricanes, how many named storms were there? So I'm going to go back through. It was during a 5-year period. I know it was 55%. 5-year period, there were 22 total. So let's go ahead and see what this video has to say. So let's go ahead and set up R is over of is equal to the percent over 100. So let's see what we know. Well, let's not get confused because there's a ton of numbers in here. During a 5-year period, 55%, well, I know that obviously goes on top of the 100. 55% over 100 of the hurricanes over 5 years were named. And actually, I'm going to erase that because I think I set that up wrong. And here's why. I know that 22 of them were named storms. I need to figure out how many total hurricanes there were. So to get from 22 to 55, there's truly no really easy way to get from 22 to 55. But I know that they have a common factor of 11. So 22, I'm going to make a little area here, divided by 11 is 2. Or 22 divided by 2 is 11. So now how would I get from 11 to 55? Well, 55 and 11 times 5 is 55. So I need to think about, okay, how many times, or what's 100 divided by 5? Well, 100 divided by 5 gives me 20. So now I'll have 11 over 20. But guess what? We need to figure out what the denominator is if 22 is on top. So to get from 11 to 22, well, we said 22 divided by 2 is 11. So 11 times 2 is 22. What's 20 times 2? That will give me my answer. Well, 20 times 2 is 40. So go ahead and copy this down and freeze your screen, and I'll go ahead and explain it once more to you. Looking at this, you can write 55% as 55 over 100. You know there were 22 hurricanes. To find the number of named storms, find the ratio equivalent to 55 over 100 with the numerator of 22. So divide the numerator and denominator both by 5. Then you get 11 out of 20. Now how can I get from 11 out of 20 to 22 over 40? Well, I can multiply the top by 22 and the bottom by the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. So there were 40 named storms during the 5-year period. Let's go ahead on to the next slide.
During 1 year, 60% of the hurricanes that struck the U.S. were Category 1 hurricanes. If 9 Category 1 hurricanes struck the U.S. that year, what was the total number of hurricanes that struck the U.S. during that year?
So let's go ahead and set this up there. 60% over 100 is equal to a ratio. So it says here that 60% of the hurricanes that struck the U.S. were Category 1 hurricanes. If 9 Category 1 hurricanes struck the U.S., how many total hurricanes were there? So we need to figure out what this bottom number is. So go ahead and solve this problem. And I know it looks a little confusing, but here are a couple of your answer choices. Go ahead and freeze the screen. If you need to, you can go in the lesson, hit show solution, and they will walk you through the problem.
During a different year, 60% of the hurricanes that struck the U.S. were Category 1 hurricanes. That year, there were only 10 hurricanes and 6 were Category 1 hurricanes. How is that possible?
So what I need to do is look at this and figure out how there were only 6 and 10 hurricanes. How there were only 10 hurricanes and 6 were Category 1s. So looking at this, if 60% of the hurricanes during a year are Category 1 hurricanes, the ratio between the number of Category 1 hurricanes and total number of hurricanes must equal 60 out of 100. Any ratio equivalent to 60 over 100 is 60%. So the ratios 6 over 10 and 9 over 15 are both equivalent to 60 over 100. So even though there may be a different number of hurricanes each year, the percent of hurricanes that are Category 1 can be the same because they're equivalent ratios. So go ahead and write that in your notes, freeze your screen if you need to. And I'm moving on to part 4.
You have used equivalent ratios to solve percent problems. What number is 22% of 150? Another way to solve this problem is to use an equation. Using either method, the solution is the same. 33 is 22% of 150. What number is 24% of 75?
So I can go 24 over 100, because all percents are written over 100, times 75 over 1. I know that this will give me 1,800, just because I know that at the top of my head, and this will give me 100. Well, when I divide these zeros cancel, so I get 18 over 1, or 18. What does that mean? 24% of 75 is 18. Again, they do the same thing. 24 over 100 times 75 gives you 1,800 over 100. When you simplify that, you get 18. On to the last problem. What number is 44%? So do 44 over 100. What is 44% of 25? So go ahead, solve this problem. I'll set it up for you. Simplify it, and I would like to see your answer circled. Here are some of your answer choices. Go ahead and freeze your screen. Put this in your notes with the correct answer, and when you are done, you may move on to your homework.